Yo, what's up? It's Veridis, and we're back at Tier Maker today, but this time with Overwatch characters. Now, I'm not really the best person to ask to make an Overwatch tier list in terms of competitive play. However, I am pretty experienced with one type of Overwatch, which is custom games. That's right. So, today we're going to be talking about Tiny Overwatch. For those of you who don't know, Tiny Overwatch basically puts you in a tiny room with a bunch of other players, and you guys have a bunch of cooldown reduction and really fast ult charge. Now, the type we're going to be talking about today is Team Tiny. So there's two teams of 6 or however many players are in the game versus the opposition, usually in the Hollywood spawn where you're in the theater fighting off against each other. So, I'm going to be rating the characters after a good amount of labbing, and I'll basically be telling you what I think about them, and who you should and shouldn't play. Now, the thing about Tiny Overwatch is you don't usually get to pick your character, but sometimes you just want to go feed your character to the other enemy team because a lot of them are not very good, and some of them you want to cling on to with your life. So, I'm going to start from the bottom up. Worst character in the game, Genji. Sorry, Genji mains. Despite his semi-playability in normal Overwatch, in Tiny Overwatch, Genji is kind of the bottom of the barrel. He does have Infinite Blade, and at first glance you'd think, wow, that is very useful. The problem is, unlike other characters in Tiny Overwatch, blading Genji does not have any projectiles. He is very weak with 200 health, or maybe 300, depending on the mode you're playing. He can use Deflect, which is pretty useful. However, it just does not make up for his lack of range and lack of damage, especially in this game mode where there's a bunch of healing going on. Alright, next bottom character is Doomfist. Unfortunately, again, unlike his playability in normal Overwatch, in Tiny Overwatch, he's not very good. Doomfist's whole thing is he jumps into the enemy team, he gets a pick, he gets out. Unfortunately, in Tiny Overwatch, it's so small that if you jump into the enemy team, you're probably going to get killed. That's pretty much all there is to it. Sure, his ultimate can be pretty good, so it is usable, especially when taking down high bounty characters like Moira or Symmetra, who are just camping and doing a bunch of damage to your team with your ultimate. However, Doomfist in general is not very good. Next up, we have Lucio. Lucio is okay, but he's also worse than everyone else, so Lucio is generally not a good character to play. He has his boops, but that's pretty much it. He has his natural healing and speed. He's basically everything he is in normal Overwatch, which isn't that great, unfortunately. Then we have Sigman, one of my favorite characters to play. However, in Tiny Overwatch, he is most definitely not. He has the Rock, which is pretty cool. He has a shield. However, his shield is very easy to break because of the constant damage output, and it's on recharge, unlike cooldown for Orisa, which makes her much better than Sigma in this mode. And unlike Rhine with charge, Sigma just has a rock and a normal projectile, neither of which do a lot of damage, unfortunately. Next up, we're just moving straight to C tier because there's already a huge gap between playability. We have Zen right here. Zen's not super good. He doesn't have a lot of healing. He has Discord Orb though. And Discord Orb is very useful in Tiny Overwatch because, and I know there's already a bit of a meta gap in normal Overwatch. In Tiny Overwatch, there's a huge meta gap. And when we're looking at the top tiers later, it's going to become really apparent that there's some characters that just dominate and a lot of characters that just get shut down instantly. And Zen is one of the ones that gets shut down instantly most of the time. However, he can be pretty good for trying to cancel down on high bounty characters once again. The only character that I put in C tier other than Zen was Winston, who once again is not very good, but he does have a shield on cooldown, which is pretty useful because you get it really fast and you can just plop it down. And Primal Rage, the thing is, you get a lot of health, and you get it all the time, so it's kind of hard to die as Winston. You have great survivability, however, you deal like no damage at all. Yeah, unfortunately, Winston just does not do enough damage to kill people, which is kinda tough in a game where you try to kill people. So, next we have B tier. Here I'm gonna put Sombra. Sombra is cool, I guess. She can hack people, which is good, and she can use EMP, which is good, and it's amazing for shutting down terrible enemies like Moira or Reaper or Hanzo. However, there's so much stuff going around that you almost can never land a hack. You're gonna get shut down every time you try and do everything. If you try and go into the enemy team to get an EMP, you're usually gonna die before then. However, if you can get it off, then she's amazing. Now, in most versions of Tiny Overwatch, Mercy's gun does a bunch of damage, so she's usually not as bad as she is in the regular game when it comes to 1v1ing, and she can do a good amount of damage, but she's not that great, so she's just in B here. Next, we have Reinhardt. In a lot of versions of Tiny Overwatch, Rein has his speed increased and his hammer disabled, and may or may not have a shield. Basically, they just want you to charge at people with Rein, which is okay, and it's good for getting picks sometimes, but similar to normal Overwatch, it's kind of hard to use, and it can put you in really bad positions. Next up, we have Ball. Since it's called Tiny Overwatch and you're in a tiny room, it's kind of hard to use Wrecking Ball's abilities, since a lot of his stuff is based around mobility and using the environment. But you can get slams and you can roll through the enemies. The main advantage of Ball is being able to just roll into their spawn and then place mines and then get a bunch of spawn kills whenever everyone respawns. So that can be useful. However, beyond that, he does not have a lot of functionality. And there's Bastion. Bastion is basically the same as in the normal game. He can deal a lot of damage, but he gets killed really easily. He's great for camping your hallway and just shooting into theirs, but he's not that good because he can just get killed really easily. Now we have Junkrat. Junkrat can do a lot of damage, and his tire is really good for killing a bunch of people. However, he can also get killed really easily. He is better than these other squishies because he has just explosive kill power with Rip Tire, and Trap can be really good to keep people from coming into your spawn, and mines are as good as they always are, same as frags. Next up in B tier, we have Pharah. Similar to her in the normal game, she can get killed very easily when she's using her ultimate. However, her ultimate does a bunch of damage. It can be used to great extent when trying to clear out a room or spawn camp everyone. However, as I said, it's very easy to get killed. A good strategy I've found is to just stay in the hallways and just shoot it out from your spawn to try and get a bunch of kills, and that's really good in deathmatch version too. But you can get some good use out of it in team version. Then in A tier, we have a lot of characters. Firstly, we have Ashe. Ashe can do a lot of damage with Dynamite, just a whole ton of damage. You thought Dynamite was bad in the base game? It's terrible in Tiny Overwatch. But it can get pretty hard countered if the enemy has shields or if they have really good heals, because even though the cooldown is really fast, a lot of the Dynamite damage is over time and not splash. Next up, we have D.Va. There. D.Va's pretty good because she can eat a bunch of stuff, and then she has Bomb, and Bomb can kill a lot of people. Pretty good. Beyond that, she has Micro Missiles, which can deal a lot of damage. She has her normal primary fire, and nothing super special. The biggest thing is that Bomb. It can kill people real good. Next up, we got Orisa. Orisa's great for camping out in your spawn. You can just keep on shooting shields forever while shooting the enemy team. And then you also have your grab thingy, which is really good. And then, of course, you have Fortify, which you can use forever. You can literally just spam Fortify to take, no CC, and then also take a bunch of reduced damage. So just always be spamming whatever button you have that on. Then we have Mei. She can freeze people, she can get headshots. So everything you know about Mei in the base game, you can do that still. But now you can freeze yourself all the time to make yourself pseudo-immortal. You can get killed if people have enough burst damage, and then you can make walls, which are incredibly annoying. The big selling point for Mei, however, is her ultimate, which can just freeze everyone, and then also allow the rest of your team to just get a bunch of kills. This is tiny Overwatch. If someone gets CC'd, they're probably going to die. Next, we have Ana. For Ana, the thing that makes her really strong is Sleep and Nade. Nade, of course, prevents people from being healed, which can cancel out a lot of amazing healers' abilities, like Moira, and we'll talk about that a little more later on. And then, of course, Sleep, which in Tiny Overwatch can perma-CC if you just keep sleeping them over and over, which will eventually kill them on its own. However, if you'd like to get more damage, you can try Sleep, Nade, Sleep, Nade. Either way, whoever you hit with Sleep is going to die. The downside to Ana is that she gets killed very easily. Her other really big selling point is the fact that she has Nano, which is very good. You can use it on one of your big clunky characters like Ryan with his charge, or maybe your Hog. Or you can use it on one of your glass cannon type characters to make them actually able to survive a little bit longer while they're dealing a lot of damage. Next up we have Widow. Widow cannot use her SMG, probably right. She can only use her sniping in most versions, and she can just like shoot people and they die. One shot, one kill could not have been more true. Next up, we have Torbjorn. There we go. So, Torbjorn's turret is cool, but the big selling point is going to be Molten Core. Molten Core, you just throw it around, you shoot it in their spawn, everyone spawns, then they die, and then that keeps happening. You get a bunch of ult charge, you do it again, they keep dying, and then you have your turret, and then you start crouching behind the turret, hitting it with a hammer, waiting for your ult charge to come back, and then you just keep going, and then they keep dying. So yeah, Torbjorn's pretty good. Then we have Tracer. She does a lot of damage, but she can get killed really easily. A big thing about Tracer is she has Recall, which lets her just come back, and it's on a super short cooldown. So if you get in trouble, you can just push it really quick. However, you will get shut down by burst damage very easily. You also usually have infinite blinks, which can be very annoying for everyone because they're just going to have a lot of trouble getting shots on you. Of course, this doesn't apply to Winston or Moira because they'll just hit you anyways. Another great thing about Tracer is Pulse Bomb, which is a bunch of damage. So you can kind of just go in, get your target, get out really fast, and then get Pulse Bomb again in 5 seconds and do it again as soon as they respawn. It's pretty good. Next up, we have Symmetra. Symmetra is incredibly annoying. Her turrets are just really good. She can make that huge wall to protect her team from getting spawn camped or shot from the enemy's spawn. So it's a great counter to a lot of characters. And then she also has teleporters, which don't have a lot of use beyond memeing. But they can be used for some tricky little plays if you're actually in like a group with someone and you're like, hey, I'm going to shoot this bomb into their backline. Your Symmetra is like, oh, cool, let's do that. But yeah, Symmetra's pretty good. Then we have Brigitte. Okay, yeah, so Brig can perma-CC people with her shield bash, and it just keeps on hitting them over and over and over, and then they die. So it's pretty good. She also has Inspire still, so she can heal people, but you won't get a lot of use out of it, because if you're getting close enough to an enemy without shield bashing them, you're probably going to get killed. Next up, we also have McCree, for the same reason. He can just flashbang people forever, but McCree is better than Brigitte, because he can flashbang multiple people if they're close enough, and he also has a lot more kill power. Then we have Soldier. Seriously, Soldier just does a ton of damage with Helix Rocket, and you can also get Tac Visor, which does a lot. And you can also pop your heal, which is useful. And it can also heal your friends too. First person we're putting into S tier, Reaper. Reaper's incredibly good in Deathmatch version because you can just jump into the middle of the room, pop your ult, and get like 6 kills. And the same pretty much applies to teams. Reaper basically just has a bunch of kill power. He can just go in, get a bunch of damage done, kill people, and then get out scot-free because it's Wraith form. And you have infinite usage of Wraith form, so you can basically be invincible whenever you want, and the only thing that's really going to kill you is a bunch of burst damage between usages, or getting killed while you're using Death Blossom, which is usually what happens. Next we have Hanzo. Hanzo, as you probably know if you've ever played Tiny Overwatch, can just shoot dragons from his spawn to your spawn, and then everyone in the spawn room just dies. So yeah, it's very good. You are kind of easy to kill, but if you stay back, there's not going to be a lot that can really contest you besides possibly enemy tracers, possibly a Lucky Sombra, possibly a Torbjorn or a ball rolling in, or I guess Tor wouldn't roll in, but going in and putting a bunch of stuff in your spawn to kill you. Next, we have Zarya. Zarya just doesn't die. She can spam personal bubble so that she can just never take any damage. She'll always have full charge, and she can just go wherever she wants without any fear. She's literally immortal. And then she can also get grav really fast and grav people, which is incredibly annoying. She can use her friend bubble to make someone else immortal. And then also, she just has high damage the whole game, so she'll just kill people really easily. So that's pretty good. Next up, we have Baptiste. Baptiste has Immortality Field, which in Tiny Overwatch is even more broken. He can basically just throw it on the floor over and over and over and declare himself immortal and everyone around him. And you will never be able to kill him unless you can CC him and then maybe boop him out of his Immortality Field or destroy it really fast. But other than that, there's not a lot you can do to stop him. And when he's combined with any of these glass cannon characters I mentioned before, they will dominate you until you get a lucky character. Next up, we have Echo. Echo is very good because she can just turn into anyone, and then she can just use their ultimate very fast. And this is Tiny Overwatch, so you already get your ultimate fast. Now your Echo, who already gets her ultimate fast also, and then you add those together, and you basically just like click the enemy twice, and then you have an ultimate, and then you use it, and then you get it again, and then you lose your ultimate, and then you shoot them like 5 times, you get your ultimate back and duplicate someone else again, and you're essentially immortal as long as you can get those lucky shots in before you have to transform again. So basically, if you know what you're doing, and you know this tier list, you can basically just turn into the character on your enemy team, which is the best, and then your team instantly has a character that is like the best character on your enemy's team, but also doesn't die when they die. So that's pretty good. Next, we have Roadhog. Roadhog is ridiculously survivable. He just does not die. His hook combo is lethal in some versions, and he has Whole Hog, which is very annoying and very good for keeping people inside spawn and killing them there. Then he has Take a Breather, which can ensure he'll survive from pretty much anything. Roadhog is arguably the best character in Tiny Overwatch. However, there's one that I give this throne, and I think a lot of people agree with me. Moira. Now, Moira has an ability called Biotic Orb. Biotic Orb in the normal game can be used to either shoot a damaging orb that will hurt your enemies, or a healing orb, which will heal your friends. These orbs bounce around, and there's an 8-second cooldown or something. Oh, so it's pretty good. It's pretty good. In Tiny Overwatch, however, there's not a cooldown. You can just use it over and over and over and over. And this projectile will just keep bouncing around the area. It will fill the entire arena. And if you're using Healing Orb, it will basically make no one on your team die. And if you're using Damaging Orb, everyone on the enemy team will die. Moira can be a total game changer. Your enemy team could have like 3 Hogs, a Widowmaker, an Orisa, and a Reaper, and you can get Moira and just spam your one ability from in spawn, and then they're all gonna die over and over and over. And then the rest of your team can go over there, make sure nobody ever gets to you, and then you can also send healing orbs every once in a while if you want your team to stay alive. And you can basically just keep doing that, and nobody can contest you unless they get lucky or you get unlucky. You also have Coalescence, but you should never use it. If you use Coalescence, then you can't use orbs, and orbs are really good. So, yeah. And you have Fade, which is very good for getting out of situations. So, yeah. Alright, thank you for watching. That is my tiny Overwatch tier list. Now, this tier list is completely my opinion. I labbed out all the characters with one of my friends, and this is basically what we agreed on as our tier list. If you disagree with any of the placements for these heroes, be sure to let me know in the comments below. I love feedback on videos, especially videos like this, where I'm talking about something completely controversial and subjective. Anyways, thanks for watching, and see ya next time.